Our next speaker will be Medha Sharma. She's the president of Visible Impact, a not-for-profit within Nepal. And Medha, you have some incredible experience in advocacy and working towards improving the health and well-being of women and girls in Nepal. From these experiences and with your own interest in public health, how have events like COVID-19 impacted women's access to leadership positions, and how do you see this shaping the future of feminist leadership? Sorry, Medha, I don't think we can hear you. Audio isn't quite coming through. I can't. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Isha, and hello and namaste, everyone. And I'm so glad to share this panel with you all. So Isha, let me begin responding to your questions by saying that, COVID-19 was an amplification of the systemic discrimination against women and girls that already existed. It was just a further exposure of our weak health system and our weak social system. Especially for young women, just like Lozana just shared, young women have a double burden of being a woman and being young. Me, myself, as an activist for sexual and reproductive health and rights, have been disgraced so many times for, promoting sex, for talking about sex. I have personally been denied a very wonderful job just because I was unmarried. And despite, having done really good in the interviews and everything, the organization saw the need to, protect me as a woman by not sending me to field activities because I was unmarried. However, talking about the bigger picture, in Nepal, we have been having a really good progress in women leadership. And we are one of the 3 countries that Melissa just mentioned with women in leadership role and women president. But at the ground, with COVID-induced lockdown, there were decline in the engagement opportunities, advocacy opportunities for young people like me were curbed. And I think the main concern is not only how much we have been hurt, how much we have been pushed back by this COVID, but how much will we be able to bounce back? Just like Melissa shared in her earlier presentation, I would like to share about one of my cousins who was working in a service sector before COVID, but she had to give up her job to fulfill the additional domestic duties. And now, when the services have reopened, she was not called upon to rejoin the job. I mean, the men in her office were called upon first, and so many women like her still have to wait for a few more months when the services open fully. My cousin, she's worried that she might now not want to go back to the same job. Another of my friends, she had just married before lockdown, and she was talking about how they do not plan to have another baby for a few years. But then the lockdown immediately happened, and the society and her family burdened her to carry a child as soon as possible. They were saying lockdown is happening, maybe this is a very good time, maybe you should utilize this time to start being a mother and fulfill the job that has been assigned to you by the society. So when she had the baby, the family really accoladed her and praised her for keeping up with the job assigned by the society. Now she has really been into that, and she, has internalized that that's her job. And as a woman, it's more important that she fulfill domestic reproductive roles. And I am worried that she will now decide not to go back to her earlier job. So what I'm trying to say is that though we have been seeing a lot of progress with the sacrifice, with the mentorship of so many feminists, women and girls who had started to gain confidence and who had started to take up leadership roles have been pushed back. Right. Well, with COVID-19, they are the first ones to lose the jobs, and probably they'll be the last one to, bounce back. I'm also thinking about so many girls who have been dropped out of school. In Nepal, one of the researchers has showed that as much as 50% of the girls might be affected, and so many of them might not want to go back. In this 1 year, so many of them have been pushed into early marriage. So it's about a whole generation of girls who were preparing themselves for leadership with education support, they are pushed back. Talk about trans women or women with disabilities who did not have accessibility to contraceptives or other sexual and reproductive health services during the time of COVID. Talk about young people, who otherwise would have picked up contraceptive devices while coming back home from schools and colleges, but now they are being questioned by the family, and so they have been denied these access to contraceptives, and so many women were forced to continue the pregnancy in lack of abortion services in the very early days of COVID. Talk about those women in healthcare sectors who were at the front line and who were not able to, who had difficult times managing their menstruation because PPE were very uncomfortable and they could not simply wear sanitary pads, and they were not allowed to change for 6 hours. So they had all these challenges of managing the menstruation. And so, like other times of crisis, we really needed to have women leading the incident management committees and, having that gender lens on. But unfortunately, in Nepal, and so many of the incident management committees at the ground level did not have women representatives. I would also like to share that, I did my postgraduate diploma in women's studies, and the very first day, the head of our faculty, she walked to the front of the classroom and said, girls, start to get frustrated, because once you have that gender lens on and you try to analyze and see how the gender has been socially constructed, and then you begin to understand the systemic discrimination, you will, try to see and have that gender lens on everything, and then you'll be having constant argument with your families and communities, and it's kind of frustrating that you now know what's causing these sort of discrimination, but then there is very little that you will be able to change. Every small gains are big wins, but it's still so frustrating when you are not able to change those roles. Having said that, I think I'm still hopeful. Though there are so much struggles in the field, COVID-19 did one thing, is that it proved that women in leadership are able to handle crisis better. So there are very good researches that show that countries that had women in leadership roles were able to manage COVID better. Also, a business that were led by women were able to bounce back and come to earning profit earlier than other that were led by male or other people after the COVID. Organizations like mine, Visible Impact, believe in mentoring women and girls to take leadership positions and advocating for their local and provincial government, for the policy environment and things that concern them. And so we have girls as young as 12 years who have been speaking out and demanding places at the policy tables. So these things really make me hopeful. Data shows that it might take us another 42 years to gain parity in the parliamentarian level and leadership, and another additional 15 years for parity in ministerial level positions. So we know that it might take us another century to see that parity at the ground level. But even if we have to keep, gearing up for another century or even more for that final push, I am ready. Thank you so much.